For over 2,000 years, those holding power have grasped a fundamental truth: information serves as the ultimate weapon. Control what people know, and you control how they think, act, and perceive reality itself. These are 5 categories of forbidden knowledge that governments, institutions, and powerful organizations have systematically hidden from public view for centuries. From ancient library burnings to modern mind control experiments, the suppression of information reveals something darker about who decides what we're allowed to know. The Catholic Church's Index Librorum Prohibitorum operated for over 4 centuries as history's most powerful censorship machine. From 1559 to 1966, this blacklist banned over 4,000 book titles across Europe. The forbidden authors read like intellectual history's greatest hits: Voltaire, René Descartes, Immanuel Kant, David Hume, and even Nicholas Copernicus, whose crime was suggesting Earth revolved around the sun. The Church's war on knowledge reached its peak with Galileo Galilei. In 1633, they placed the astronomer under house arrest for life because he presented observational evidence supporting heliocentrism. The general prohibition against works advocating heliocentrism wasn't removed until 1758, and all traces of official opposition didn't disappear until 1835. The Church literally held back scientific progress for 2 centuries to protect its worldview. But religious censorship looks tame compared to what governments have hidden about their own activities. In 1953, CIA Director Alan Dulles approved Project MKUltra, the agency's secret mind control program. Sidney Gottlieb, the CIA chemist who ran the program, bought the entire world's supply of LSD for $240,000. That's over $4 million in today's money, spent on a single drug for experimentation. MKUltra's scope was staggering. Over 30 institutions and universities participated in the experimentation program. The CIA investigated chemical, biological, and radiological methods of mind control, spending an estimated $10 million, roughly $87.5 million, adjusted for inflation. They conducted experiments on unwitting subjects, including children, the elderly, and servicemen, then lied about it repeatedly. What makes MKUltra particularly sinister is how thoroughly they tried to hide it. In 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered most MKUltra records destroyed. We only know about the program because some files were discovered in 1977, containing 700 pages of new information. Most of what happened will never be known because the evidence was deliberately destroyed. The program's legacy lives on in unexpected ways. Ken Kesey, author of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, received his LSD through a CIA-sponsored MKUltra experiment. So did Robert Hunter, the Grateful Dead's lyricist, and Allen Ginsberg, the poet who championed LSD's value. The counterculture movement of the 1960s was partly fueled by drugs the CIA had been testing on unwitting subjects. Even more disturbing is what the government planned but never executed. Operation Northwoods, presented to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara on March 13, 1962, detailed false flag operations designed to justify military intervention in Cuba. The Joint Chiefs of Staff proposed staging fake terrorist attacks on American soil, including hijacking planes and blowing up ships, then blaming Cuba to create public support for war. President John F. Kennedy rejected these proposals, but their very existence reveals how far military leadership would go to manipulate public opinion. As investigative reporter James Bamford told ABC News, the reason these were held secret for so long is the Joint Chiefs never wanted to give these up because they were so embarrassing. The whole point of a democracy is to have leaders responding to the public will. And here, this is the complete reverse. The military trying to trick the American people into a war that they want, but that nobody else wants. The document remained classified until 2000, nearly 40 years after it was written. Public knowledge of Operation Northwoods only emerged through James Bamford's book, Body of Secrets, showing how long dangerous government plans can stay hidden from the very people they target. Perhaps no case illustrates the betrayal of public trust more clearly than the Tuskegee syphilis study. Beginning in 1932, the U.S. Public Health Service conducted a study on untreated syphilis effects, using nearly 400 African American men as unwitting test subjects. The men were told they were receiving free healthcare for bad blood, but were never informed they had syphilis and were deliberately denied treatment. The study was originally planned to last 6 months, but stretched to 40 years. Even after penicillin was discovered as an effective syphilis treatment in the 1940s, researchers continued withholding treatment to observe the disease's progression to death and autopsy. When the study finally ended in 1970, after a press leak, 28 patients had died directly from syphilis. 100 died from complications. 40 of the patients' wives were infected, and 19 children were born with congenital syphilis. The case settled for $10 million, equivalent to about $60 million today. President Bill Clinton issued a formal presidential apology in 1997, but the damage to trust in medical institutions, particularly among African American communities, persists to this day. Throughout history, the systematic destruction of knowledge has robbed humanity of countless discoveries and insights. The Library of Alexandria, which once held an estimated 500,000 documents from civilizations across the known world, was gradually destroyed over several centuries. When Julius Caesar pursued Pompey into Egypt in 48 BCE, fires spread from burning ships to parts of the city where the library stood. The final blow came in 391 CE, when Emperor Theodosius I sanctioned pagan temple demolition, and Bishop Theophilus led an attack on the Serapeum. We'll never know what knowledge vanished forever in those flames. Ancient texts on mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy that could have advanced human understanding by centuries simply disappeared. Some historians estimate the library contained works that wouldn't be rediscovered for over 1,000 years. The suppression pattern continues today, though the methods have evolved. PEN America has documented nearly 23,000 book bans in public schools nationwide since 2021, a number unprecedented in living American memory. In the 2024-2025 school year alone, they recorded 6,870 instances of book bans, affecting nearly 4,000 unique titles. Florida led with 2,304 bans, followed by Texas with 1,781. The American Library Association surveys indicate that between 82 and 97% of book challenges remain unreported and receive no media coverage. The most targeted books deal with race, racism, LGBTQ+ themes, and social justice topics. The reasons given often include false claims of obscenity or complaints about diverse characters and inclusive themes. Even the Vatican, long synonymous with secrecy, has begun opening its archives. For centuries, the Vatican's secret archives were completely closed to outside researchers. Only in 1881 did Pope Leo XIII permit scholars access, and even then with severe restrictions. The archives contain 53 miles of shelving with documents dating back to the 8th century, including over 100,000 letters from the 14th century alone. In 2019, Pope Francis renamed the institution from the Vatican Secret Archive to the Vatican Apostolic Archive, acknowledging that the word secret had fueled unnecessary conspiracy theories. As current prefect Sergio Pagano explained, people clamor for the opening of the Vatican archives almost as though to enter into a secret fortress by overcoming imaginary resistance. But when the door is open and the documents are available, those who seem to be at the gates don't show up. Columbia history professor Matthew Connolly describes what he calls the dark state, the secret activities pursued by government officials that often prove depraved upon examination. From subjecting vulnerable populations to experiments to lying repeatedly about it, the pattern of institutional deception spans decades and crosses party lines. The question isn't whether forbidden knowledge exists. The documented evidence is overwhelming. The question is what we're still not being told, what documents remain classified, and what information gets destroyed before we ever see it. As the National Security Archive noted, despite agencies' efforts to erase hidden history, the surviving documents present a compelling and unsettling narrative of decades-long efforts to discover and test ways to erase and reprogram the human mind. The dark history of forbidden knowledge teaches us that transparency isn't given. It's demanded, fought for, and sometimes only achieved decades after the fact. Every document released, every archive opened, every banned book restored to shelves represents a small victory against those who would control what we're allowed to know about our own world.